Hey viewers, my name's Cara. I'm your host for Tuesdays on the Pagan Perspective, and this week we are revisiting a topic we've talked about before. We are talking about living in environments that are hostile to paganism. This week's topic comes from a user named DaughterOfTheWild, and she's been watching some of our advice for beginners type topic videos. We've done videos on that in the past, and she wanted us to just revisit the topic of specifically advice for people who are in living situations where the other people in the environment are not accepting or tolerant of paganism, or in fact are outwardly hostile toward paganism. If you're a regular viewer of Pagan Perspective or of my personal channel, CuteWitch772, then you've already heard my story several times of how I told my mother about my beliefs and how I just took labels out of it, and we talked about our beliefs, and that's really what helped us get over it, and how the rest of my family doesn't really care, and how my friends have been mostly accepting of it, but the people who don't, you've heard that stuff. So you know my story. Therefore, you know that I really don't have much personal experience with living in a really hostile environment, because my mother was always very accepting, and her husband was not. Her husband's rather hostile about belief in general, but it wasn't an uncomfortable living situation for me. It wasn't that I couldn't be open, we just got into a lot of creative discussions. So I have been fortunate enough not to have to grow up in a hostile living environment, hostile to my beliefs, that is. So unfortunately, I can give you advice all I want, but I haven't been through it, so I don't know your situation as well as you all do. Those of you who are in this situation, I don't know it the way that you do. And so I definitely don't want to say, oh, I hope other people have been in situations like this, because I don't hope that people have been in these situations, But what I mean is, I hope that there are other people out there who have experienced things like this, who have something more to say about it, that can tell you strategies that they used or ways that it worked for them. Because really, ultimately, I want the world to be a certain way. I want for everyone to be able to be open about their beliefs and have that be okay. I want people to be able to disagree respectfully and not have it be a fear of living in this situation of where, what if I'm found out and I get kicked out of the house, or my parents don't talk to me anymore, or whatever the case may be. I don't want that to be the world that we live in, and some of us are fortunate enough not to live in that environment, but some of you have to deal with that, and I wish I knew better what to say. I do have small tidbits that I feel like would help, but again, those are the things that I feel comfortable saying, because I already have that comfort with my support system behind me and just knowing that I've said those types of things before, but I can't very well expect that everyone is comfortable doing that the same way that I am. So the best advice I really have is that ultimately, no matter what advice we have for you and tips and tricks that we may suggest, when it really gets down to it, you have to be able to make the decision for yourself of what you're comfortable with, because you know the people in this situation. We don't. And so I could tell you, like I often say, when I spoke to my mother, we just talked about beliefs, and I think that you should be able to be comfortable being yourself and doing it on your own, but not necessarily having to bring it up. Or if it does come up, I don't think that you should have to lie about it. Maybe just don't say the label if you think that the label will freak people out or whatever. But then again, there's probably a lot of you sitting at home going, I could never do that. I know how this person would react. I know what the repercussions would be if I ever said such and such a thing or did such and such a thing. So ultimately, you have to make the decisions. The other really biggest thing that I want to stress to all of you who are in this situation is that, some of you are living in situations where your parents might already kind of know and they don't approve of it, or they might suspect and they don't approve of it. And so sometimes people have told me that their parents have banned them from using any witchcrafty type tools in the house. Like, they don't allow their kids to have candles anymore, or they don't allow them to have incense or knives, or whatever the case may be that they think is a witchcraft type item. They have disallowed that in their household. So whether it's that kind of situation, or your family has said you may not practice witchcraft in my house, or whatever it is, I do want to stress that even without those tools, without casting a circle and chanting out loud, or whatever it is that you might be wanting to do or thinking that you want to do, you always have the option to learn and grow and practice even without those things. So I don't want you to feel like you can't learn and you can't grow with these restrictions, because you can. You always have the ability to sit quietly and meditate silently. Even if you have a room to yourself, not everyone does, if you have your own space, you can still get up and, walk a circle or stand up and do your invocations or whatever gestures you may like. You don't have to say anything out loud if hearing it could be a cue that would get you in trouble or anything like that. And see, that's another thing. I also feel like there are some people who have come under attack in the pagan community for telling kids, just do it, don't tell your parents. Like, I'm not trying to say that it's a secret-y thing that you should keep from your parents, because ideally, I want you to talk to your parents. I want your parents to accept your beliefs. I want you to have a similar relationship that I have with my mother, where we can agree to disagree and honestly just try to learn and understand each other. But I understand that not everyone can have that, so I'm not trying to tell you to keep this from your parents. Ideally, if you ever have the opportunity where you feel it would be safe or comfortable to be honest about your beliefs, that I think is always the best thing, where they don't have to agree with you, but they will be okay with letting you be who you are. Of course, that's what I want. But if it is a case where they have told you, you may not do this, you may not do that, I don't want you to think that progressing within your spiritual path is now a locked door for you, because it isn't. You can always still do those things. You can, depending on where you live, nature is a really big thing in my path, so I want to say you always have access to nature. You can always go outside, take a walk in a park. You can always read a book. Well, some people have differing access to books. Libraries sometimes have really good books. If you have access to the internet, which you do if you're watching these videos, you can still learn online. You can still ask yourself questions and think about these topics, and you can still learn so much, and you can still grow so much without being open about what you're doing within your household environment. This is a very difficult situation, and one that, as I said, I have fortunately not had to undergo. And that means that you, having gone through it, will have that experience on me. You'll know what to say to someone else who's been through this. So again, just what I want you to take from this video today from me is that no matter what advice we do give you, no matter what I've said in these types of videos in the past, of course I think that's all good advice, those are all great suggestions. If you feel like you can make those things happen, I think it'd be a good idea, but you know your situation better than I do because you're in it. You know your situation better than any of the rest of us on this channel do because you're in it and we're not. And you know those people, so you will know what best suits your experience and what you're going through. And another thing is, if you don't know, or you feel like you don't know, you're sitting there saying, I don't know what to do. Pray about it, ask for help, ask for guidance. I always find that that works for me because I've developed that sort of relationship, and I look for the answers. Whether you worship deity or whether it's just nature in general, the universe in general, whether it's a certain quality or whatever it is that you look up to. So suit this to your own personal belief, your own path. Whatever that thing is, ask. Ask for his, her, their, its guidance and help and support in this effort, and see if, you can find something that way. So you know best what the situation will require. And then the second thing is just take away that you can still learn and you can still grow. There are still resources available to you, and you always have yourself. You always have your own mind and body and capabilities thereof. So I don't want you to feel like you can't progress until you get out. Sure, being out and being open about it and being able to talk to people about it, even within your family, friends, whatever, whoever it is, that certainly is very freeing once you get to that point. But even before that, you don't have to feel like you're at a standstill. There's always something that you can do. This is part of your path too. You're not just waiting for that point to start. This is part of it. This is part of your time for learning and growing, and then this is an experience to go through that will shape how you see other things later on. So you know best, and this is not a locked door. That's what I want you to take away from this. So thank you very much for watching. Best of luck and best wishes, as nerdfighters might say. I'll see you next time. Until then, don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye.